Recording in progress. Well, it's good to see you, man. I was hoping to do this a little bit sooner, but both you and I are very busy people, as it turns out.
Yeah, we are busy. It's true. I mean, like, I have 20 minutes to spare in my whole life for this interview right now so that we can do this. But it's important because
Yeah.
this info has to get onto the record just in case something happens. Look, I, what your audience needs to realize is that their power comes in filing documents onto the record. If you have an open case like a ticket, they pull you over, they give you a citation if the cops do, and now you have a case number. You can actually go to the clerk at the court and start dropping um, facts, FACTS, withstanding into the record and start putting information on the record. Now, I have started doing this so that there's a full record of it. And I want to read off my case number because anybody can go to the Brevard County Clerk of the Court's website, Brevard County, Florida. That's Brevard, Brevard County, Florida. And my case number is, let me read it. It's 052022 MM 041616 dash AXXXX. Okay, so you guys can all go and look at the paperwork that I've already filed onto the record, and you can pull up the documents and see. And my most recent filing was last week, and I filed a cease and desist onto my open case. And I don't have to pay any filing fees. Normally, when you file a document onto the record, you have to pay a filing fee. Well, with an open case, anybody ever gets an open case, you can go and start filing facts onto the record. So one of the facts I put onto the record was that I am not a sovereign citizen. When I was in court the last time, I was sitting in the audience because I told them I didn't have to come into the bar or obey any of their court rules because I'm not collateral and I know that they are doing private bar business instead of a public business as they're trying to show people that they are. They're putting on a show in that courtroom. So I just want you guys to know and your audience to know, you, Logan, to know, and my friends and family know too, that they gave me a summons for the 20th. That's this Thursday, the 20th of October 2022 at the Harry T. Moore Justice Center. Now, according to the rules of contracting and syntaxing, anything in parentheses doesn't really count and is meaningless. When you're signing a contract, things in parentheses aren't really a part of the contract. And if you look on Google and you type in the Harry T. Moore Justice Center, next to it in parentheses, it says courthouse because it's not really a courthouse. They're just trying to make you think it's a courthouse by putting official words in parentheses to make people believe something that's not true. So that courthouse is really just a private bar office where they're trying to put on a play and make people believe they're in a courtroom and that they have to pay money for statutes and codes that are made up by this private bar guild and the local authorities. And so on the record, I have recently put a cease and desist that they're not allowed to use Ronald Russell Farnham, that name. That name belongs to me, and I already secured it as my private property. Your audience, you guys have the right to create a power of attorney general over your name and just file it with the county recorder on the record that that name is your property. That way, if the police ever pull you over and give you a citation, and they're like, well, I need your name. Oh, it's my name. I filed it on the record as my property whenever. Yet you can have my name for $1,000 cash up front because you want to stay in honor. They're out there doing private bar guild business and they are trying to get money out of you to run their business, their jails, their courthouse, so-called courthouse, their police fraternal order of police organization. So I filed a cease and desist so they can't use my name. I also filed for a change of venue to my cell phone on a specific time and date. So they're supposed to call. I filed a change of venue paperwork. I was sitting in front of the clerk filing this, and she says, this is an order for a change of venue. And I said, let me get the light out of my, and I said, yeah, I didn't really, I just sat there because I don't have to respond to statements. She goes, are you a judge? Are you a judge? And I was like, I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't want to say, no, I'm not a judge. I didn't want to defeat the purpose of filing this, which was basically a change of venue. I said, well, I can file it as an affidavit of truth. I'll write that at the very top. So instead of it being an order, she kind of forced me to file it as an affidavit of truth, but it's really an order. What I put in another document that anything that I put onto the record and write, I put this statement that whatever my intention is, contracts, this is all contract law at the highest form of law, which is the highest form of law and under the Uniform Commercial Code. So I just put on a statement in one of my other filings that anything I write here is to be construed as my intention. So my intention is a change of venue to my cell phone at 1 p.m. on October 20th. So they got to call me because, and I told them why, because they are constantly trying to handcuff me, treat me as collateral, which they did not last time. And
I
then
was
I
gonna say,
filed a,
is that why? Is that why you wanted to change the venue? Is because of that fact? I was just wondering why you did.
yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons. I've watched how they operate their business, and they are they're violent and they use word trickery against people to put them into their jurisdiction so that they can just hold them as collateral. Every person walking into a so-called courtroom is being thought of and presumed to be collateral for a birth certificate bond. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about in this interview. And I know I'm kind of talking a lot and going fast, and anytime interrupt me, Logan, and ask questions, but this is what I filed on the record. And you can even see the filing stamp on it, that it was a file. They put a stamp on it
Where did
right
you
there.
file that? Was that the same day that you were there for that court visit?
No, I've been going on my days between visits to the clerk of the courts and filing these documents.
Okay.
And this is an affidavit of truth. And this is a rebutting the 12 key presumptions. And one of those presumptions is that you are collateral and that you can be treated as collateral. A clerk of the courts actually sent me the list of the 12 key presumptions. So I officially rebutted them on the record. I also put on the record in one of my filings that there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, because during my first appearance, I heard the state attorney tell this public defender, who David Silverman, alleged judge, was trying to get this public defender to take my case for me. He goes, well, see if this guy wants to help you out. And this public defender stood up and stood like right in front of me. And I wouldn't look at him. I said, make this guy leave me alone. He's like, sir, I just want to talk to you about, handling you. I was like, I don't need representation. I'm not a thing. Get this guy out of my face, David, which is basically what I said right there in the middle of the courtroom. And so that guy just walked out of the courtroom, this public defender, because I'm not there. They know I'm not there playing games, and I'm not being part of their play that they're putting on. So that's one of the reasons, yes, why I filed the cease and desist or a change of venue, because I don't want to enter their private property and be treated like collateral under the presumption that that's what I am, and I'm not. I'm tired of them putting their hands on me, touching me, putting handcuffs on me, pulling me to the ground, forcing me to sit down. That's battery. I've been bad. They've committed battery against me uh, a dozen times at least. So
Well,
anyway,
let me ask you this real quick. So you put in for a change of venue and to your cell phone. So basically, you're saying I'm not walking into this courtroom. You can call me on my phone. Now, is that something like I'm thinking in my mind that like if I put my mind in their situation, you know what I mean? Like, are they actually going to call you on your phone, or like what position are they in to be like, what is this guy wants me to call him on his phone? You don't get a phone call, like they're it seems to me that they're going to take it to the furthest extreme that they possibly can. I mean, is that possible? I don't know. Like, how does like how what is the expectation to happen with by the time Thursday
okay.
comes?
Those are good questions because I've already filed onto the record um, the rejection of these 12 key presumptions. And one of those presumptions is that they're actually conducting a public trial or court. And they're not. They're conducting private bar guild business. And I've sued them in my paperwork, also put on there that, hey, for the use of my private property, my name, you owe me you're financially obligated to pay me $15 million I've put down because they keep using it several times over and over on the record in the court case, in their case, and they're using my name, my property on the record that I own that property. And so I already rejected one of the presumptions that they're conducting a private, that they're conducting public business and that their oaths mean something. Judges and these attorneys take more than one oath. They take an oath to the bar and then they take an oath to the private bar guild, which is a conflict of interest. And I rejected that. I rebutted that presumption in this paperwork. And so when you file information and documents like this into your case, it goes on the record and is a fact with standing, meaning that if they need to look at my case, read the paperwork that I've already presented, and understand that I've already put them under private business, that that I'm not under their jurisdiction, I'm not collateral, and that they owe me money, and they're supposed to call me at 1 p.m. on Thursday, October 20th, and discuss business as business people. They're not really uh, judges. This isn't about any violent crime. When they pulled me over, you saw the video. I stayed in honor and conditionally accepted all of their offers and told them I'm not driving or operating, so I don't need a license. And I don't need to, if you want me to perform for you, I'll step out of the car for $500. And they go ahead. And then they assaulted and battered me and touched me and started committing these crimes against humanity against me when I already removed myself from their jurisdiction officially on the record years ago by filing my name as my property that he wasn't allowed to have. So yeah, I'm not going into their place of business. So your audience needs to know that there are 12 key presumptions. And I'm going to email you the text of these because we don't have time for me to read all of them out. But
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna write down I'm gonna send you this document, and you can copy and paste as much of the text, or I'll copy and paste the presumptions. And I would like you to have these documents. I want several people to have the documents so they stand as proof in case something happens to me. Because what if now they put a warrant out for my arrest on Thursday because I don't appear? And that's one of the rejection presumptions too.
Right.
And what I did was one of the things I filed last week was a rejection of the summons. I rejected the summons. I wrote rejected. I had it notarized. Any document you're going to file onto the record, you have to have it notarized or it doesn't count. It's like nobody's witnessed you signing this document. So a notary births that document into commerce with you. And then I dropped that on the record. I put that on the record and said, hey, here's a rejection of the summons. I'm not required to come and appear at your building. I reject this presumption. And if you want to talk to me, you can call me. And that's when I did the change of venue along with the rejection of the summons. 3 separate documents: change of venue, cease and desist of using my name, and rejection of the summons. Whenever you're given a summons, a traffic citation with no injured party, always within 30 days, because it's business, it takes 30 days for a document to cure and become a binding contract. Before your 30 days is up, before you're to appear, you want to you want to go to a notary and write rejected across that summons and then sign it and have the notary sign it and then drop it off at the clerk of the courts and tell them you're rejecting the summons. You don't have to appear. You're not collateral. I reject this presumption about me that I need to take a day off from work or not do this, that, or the other thing, and don't take my time when you guys think I'm violating some statute and code when most people are not drivers. Now, if you hold a Class A or B license and you're driving for a company and you get pulled over and even, for speeding, then you're willingly and voluntarily and knowingly operating a vehicle for the Department of Transportation, conducting commerce on the roadways, and that's a binding contract. But if
Right.
you're just dropping your kid off at school, if you're just traveling to the store to do some shopping, You're just traveling. You're not being paid to drive or operate a vehicle, so you don't have to. You can reject those summons, but they're trying to trick people into showing up and giving them money, and
Right.
it's a protected racket,
I think
racketeering.
that's important for people to know, because that's something I didn't really know, because like I was talking with other people about this and they had trouble wrapping their mind around it. But when you look at the official law, like what the law says, like the law that the policy enforcers and the whole judicial system are supposed to be upholding, is that when it comes down to traveling on public roadways, is that the law states that an operator or driver of a vehicle is operating in commerce, meaning we're operating, through financial means and purposes. So yeah, if you're driving your company vehicle, or like you said, you're driving a truck, anything to do with money, then you are willingly putting yourself into their jurisdiction by doing that. Now, if you're just driving in
I
your
looked up the
car,
definition in Black's Law Dictionary, which is
Black's
what
law. Yeah,
it says. One employed in the operation or in the operation of a vehicle.
right.
One employed in the operation of a motor vehicle. And so that means someone getting paid for operating that vehicle
So right,
in
so
some
so
way.
so basically, really, and I'm actually have a question to you about this too. Now, when it comes to getting your tag registered and all this stuff that they make you do, now this is not really necessary, is it? You don't have to have a registered tag. That's
No,
what.
correct. That's just another presumption that they believe about you, that you have to register your vehicle. They operate under in everything, they operate under the presumption of law. Everyone, they presume something about all of us living souls, like that we're citizens because we reside and are domiciled in the state of Florida, when we're just living souls on the land. And this company is trying to make us follow these rules, and if we don't, then they fine us for it, and they're telling us we're doing things that we're not. And so, you don't need a driver license if you're not being paid to drive. In fact, you can just say I don't have a license. If you don't have a license, then they can't suspend it and they can't take away your driving privileges that you're not using anyway. So the best thing to do is not have a driver license and to not register your car. If it's not registered, then the state has no interest in your property and they shouldn't legally be able to tow it. My car was towed when it wasn't registered. So they stole the vehicle. They committed a crimes every which way, and just so that they can get some money, because they're probably in financial dire straits, because for a while now the police had to stand down for the last couple of years during COVID, and they weren't probably writing a lot of tickets because they were staying away from the public. They were ordered to do so. And that's a fact based on knowledge that I have through people in the police departments and with relationships to the police departments, that during COVID, the police departments were, at least here in Brevard County, were told to stand down and stay away and limit their contact with the public because of this COVID situation. Well, now they're getting back out there and in force, and they're starting to, start getting back into their money making mode and operating their perfected racket by, using word trickery and legal English against unsuspecting living souls who operate at formal English and slang English and not legal English, where the words mean something different. And people are unwittingly and putting themselves under the jurisdiction of these fraudsters called police officers and attorneys and judges, who are just there to manipulate people out of their money and into their pockets.
So as of now, so the expectation of the court is that you're going to appear there on October 20th, and you filed the paperwork to say that I reject that, but I will meet you in the middle, and you can call me on my phone. That's what
And
you're waiting for.
exactly.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah. So
All
I
right.
gave them my cell phone number. Now, a bail bondsman might show up to my house or where I'm staying, which is not the same address on what they have on the record, on my record. So we'll see what happens. Um, it's going to be a weird few days come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because I don't know what's going to happen, or Sunday. I mean, they could bust in my door anytime, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and haul me out of there in handcuffs and treat me like freaking a thing. And suddenly I could disappear. So if that happens,
Crazy.
I'm going to give my sister your phone number
Sure,
so you can
absolutely.
update people, and she can keep you in the loop. In the meantime, I need to email you the documents so you can see everything I filed onto the record. All I'm going to do is forward you the emails that I've already sent to the state attorney, because every time you file something onto the record, you also have to send that evidence to the prosecuting party. And so under the laws now of communication, under in cases, you can actually email all the documents. So when I bring them to the county recorder, they file them on the record, they make copies of them, they stamp the copies, they give me back the copies, they keep the original, but I get a stamped copies that make it official. And then I scan those copies into my computer, and then I email those copies to the state attorney, so that, and I say on the bottom of the document that I will be emailing these to the prosecuting party, and you'll be able to see that on the paperwork. But I'm just going to forward you those emails. It's like 4 or 5 emails, and then you'll have the documentation, so that if friends and family come to my aid, if I'm being held hostage in a jail or one of their jail centers, that it's just a profit business, and maybe people can show up and go, hey, wait a second, this is not just, and send it to, I don't know what, show up in force or something like that. But if I'm not collateral, and I'm not supposed to go to jail, and I'm not suicidal, so if I get suicided, I'm not suicidal. I have 100 reasons to live and more, and I plan to live to be 860 years old through fasting, and you know, that kind of a lifestyle. So
I just I can't see how this can go too much further with the fact that, I mean, we're talking about the most least of all possible things that could ever happen is that you're driving a car that's just not registered, and it's turning into this whole massive thing. And the fact that the state, county, whatever, really wants to put this much energy into something like this is kind of, it really baffles me. And the lengths that it seems like they possibly could take out of what, I don't even know why they would want to haul you off or break in your door or do any of that. I guess in their mind, that's that to me sort of proves the tyrannical foundation in which the whole system really sits, like the root of all of this. And this is where I get really upset about how our system is operating. And system really actually means sewer. I don't know if a lot of people know that. System actually is a word that means
just
sewer.
like the word banks, where they bank off your credit and funnel it into their building, and then
Right,
they,
exactly. The river banks, they take all your money, they hide it in in the bank, and they take whatever they want. The whole system is really just really bunk bad, and it's so corrupt, and we've been kind of so manipulated. We kind of been feathered into this hypnosis that it's okay. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, "Oh, pay your taxes, pay your taxes." To me, that's no different than me wearing a little badge that says Logan Henderson government with a gun walking into anybody's door and go, "Give me $1,000 taxes.
yeah,
I'm the government. Give me
exactly,
the $1,000 right now." You know what I
yeah.
mean? What's the difference of me doing that? And that, but they're doing it in a way that it's somehow totally acceptable. So it's like that brainwashing is so deep. I mean, I admit it. Like I grew up with the same mentality. It's like, hey man, get
And
a
you know
job,
why?
you know,
Because
pay your tax.
the mass media has
Right.
programmed us to believe all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. The movies, the media, all of that stuff. It's all brainwashing tactics, entrainment. It is. I've been studying this now for the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years. And it's been so fascinating to see the depth of this and where it has come from. And I mean, we're thousands of years of just very interesting psychology. And I think back when I was a teenager, we used to experiment with like, mind altering substances and stuff. And we used to play these games with each other, like the power of suggestion games and these little things. And it was really cool to see how this stuff actually worked. And now, fast forward many years later, I'm going, oh my gosh, like all those little games that we were playing with each other to get into each other's heads and manipulate it and coerce each other into certain mental states. It's like this has been happening for thousands of years. And then you bring it right to your situation, like this key point, like this is such a great like point to show, like, we're free souls here, and we've been put into this confinement and convinced that we're not free, to the point when we try to put up a fight or prove that, hey, listen, I can prove beyond any reasonable doubt that not just myself, but all of us, all of our human family are in fact free living souls. it's like they will bring in the enforcements to try to go, no, you're not. No, you're not, with these legal stamps and little papers that have somebody's handwriting on it. It's like, come on, I don't know. It's insane. It really is.
And that's where understanding that the Uniform Commercial Code is the most important thing to understand, and that you can make law in there by having open cases. And before I go, because I gotta go, I want you guys to take this case number and use this as the fact withstanding that the sovereign citizen is an oxymoron that was made up by the police, because I wrote that in one of my documents. So per case number, the case number that I read off, if some cop ever tries to tell you you're acting like a sovereign citizen, you say, oh, that's already been rejected on the record per this case number, that the sovereign citizen doesn't exist, that the Fraternal Order of Police made it up to confuse you, and that a sovereign can't be a citizen and a citizen can't be sovereign, and that you guys are just making up this term as a way to try and confuse people and put them under your jurisdiction, when that's a lie, per this case number. Because I made law with that, and that hasn't been rebutted. I specifically put that paragraph in one of my filings to put it on the record in a case to make it law that there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, and that they can't use that term against us.
That's
So
awesome. That's all. So
yeah,
it's like, so what it's again, it's the co-opt. They call it, co-opted, right? They co-opt everything that's real, and then they twist it using word magic but it really actually is an inversion. So instead of saying living soul, which would be the truth, the authentic standing in truth comment, they're going to co-opt that by saying sovereign citizen, which sounds to just like the blank ear like, oh, I'm a sovereign citizen, because the word sovereign's in there, without knowing what the words mean. And when you put them together, they actually contradict one another and mean, no, you're actually a slave, right?
and it's not really even one word. It's two separate words that are hyphenated, so it's really just a term. And when you're defining something, you can't really define it in terms. It has to be defined in a word. Like a chair is a chair because it's a chair. A couch is a couch because it's a couch. A sovereign is a sovereign because they're sovereign. And a citizen is something different, a different word. And a citizen is a citizen. There's a sovereign citizen is just some term, and it's not even a definable word. It's just an oxymoron. And I wanted to defeat that so that
Right.
people can't be played games with. And everybody needs to understand syntaxing and how to wordsmith everything. And you should look up David Wynn Miller, Wynn Miller. He's passed away about a year ago, but he was a master of syntaxing, and he showed that all contracts are basically invalid. He talks about signatures. If you sign something, you're really invalidating it, because it means to actually curse the page that you're writing on. An autograph is really what you want to use when you're making a binding contract, and that's your printed name in colored ink. There's a difference between an autograph and a signature, and if you look up what signatures do, you'll learn that every single contract that's ever been signed is actually invalid, all of them, because it's just squiggly lines that are illegible. And you would have to have some expert come in and try and define whose signature this is, and it's
Oh
almost
yeah.
impossible.
Can't read my
So
signature, man.
yeah. All right. Well, that's everything. I have to email you those documents, and I appreciate it, but I gotta go.
No, it's all right,
We
man.
can talk for hours, but
Email me the documents, everything that you can. Definitely, you may need some, someone or more than one people to advocate for you if it's something happens. I mean, obviously, we're all going to be putting our best energy your way. And I'm going to try to maintain connection with you for the next week, just to kind of see how things are going. And then once it seems like the air is somewhat cleared a little bit, or once you got a more of a full direction on what the next step is, then hopefully we can, jump back on here and do another quick conversation and, keep things moving forward,
well, the perpetrators of this, the state attorney, the state has like 30 days to pay me. The next step after this is for me to start filing liens on the record against them for what they owe me for using my name. And if they haven't purged my name from their databases, it's going to keep incurring more penalties. And so I'm building multi-million dollar lawsuits against the state, or at least
Crazy.
one major claim for them using money. And then I'll tell you, one of the benefits of me getting the money from the state would be I'm going to buy 1 million copies of my own book, and I'm going to start handing it out for free all over the United States in an effort to wake everybody up that feel, especially into the lower income communities, the highly jailed race, like the Black and Hispanic community, where there's a lot of people going to jail unwittingly for nonviolent crimes. There's the whole child support industry, where child support is supposed to be paid by the state, not the individual. There's just a lot of different deception going on with the finances that's putting people into a state of hopelessness, financial distress, homelessness. So this is the first step, and there's a lot more to this. This is about freeing everybody financially, honestly, and this is a major step on defeating the court, this perfected racket system that has made everybody feel even more hopeless and having to follow licensing requirements and all these registrations and things like that, when it's just terrorist tactics, police brutality, assault and battery, mind manipulation, psychological operations being put against us, like they're treating us like cattle and collateral of a birth bond. It's a financial scam, because from the very beginning, our birth certificate is created by the state, stolen, made to be our credit, kept from us, banked off by the banks, and then our names used against us by the so-called justice system. And it's just, ugh, disgusting.
Absolutely, man. Well, brother, I appreciate it so much. Good, I mean, good luck, man. But I'm gonna be, I'll be in touch with you. I'll be in touch with you the day of, just to send you some good positive energy. And yeah, I really appreciate you talking, and we'll be in touch, man.
All right. Thanks, Logan. I appreciate your time too, bro. Have a good one.
You
Peace.
too. Later, man.